This is a 5-nanometer microchip, and inside it is a problem that almost stopped technological progress. When you zoom in, you see this. Thousands of nanoscopic layers stacked on top of each other. And at the very bottom of this maze are the transistors, switching billions of times every single second. Until now, the rule was simple. The smaller you make those transistors, the faster they switch, the more computational power you unlock. And it worked beautifully, until it didn't. As a chip design engineer, I can tell you, we are literally running out of space at the atomic level. Until now, a new approach to scaling starts to work. Subscribe to the channel and let me show you. For over 50 years, scaling was simple. Just shrink the transistor, get more performance. Until around 2015, that's when physics pushed back. We use light to print chips, and light is a wave, which comes with a fixed wavelength. And suddenly the brush is bigger than the features you are trying to draw. You can't make sharp patterns anymore. Everything starts to blur. And once that happens, it's a chip failure. But at the same time, the transistors themselves began to break. They rely on controlling electrons, but when they get too small, the physics breaks down. Suddenly, electrons tunnel through barriers, and the transistors stop being a clean switch, and it starts leaking. And in microchips, leakage sinks ships. The industry was stuck. But then something incredible happened. Scaling didn't die. One machine forced it forward again. To build a microchip, you have to print patterns onto silicon using light. At large scales, light behaves exactly how you expect, a clean beam. But at the nanometer scale, it gets worse. It behaves like a wave. And visible light is around 400 to 700 nanometers, but modern chips are trying to print features at 5 nanometers and below. Now, just think about that. The brush you are using is 100 times larger than the feature you are trying to draw. So the industry had to go to extremes. It moved to extreme ultraviolet lithography. These machines cost around $200 million each, and they use light with a wavelength of just 13.5 nanometers. Much smaller, much sharper. And for a moment, it worked. We went from flat, planar transistors to FinFETs. But only under one condition. To generate this light, you create plasma hotter than the surface of the sun. And to do that, you shoot molten tin droplets through a vacuum. Each droplet is hit by a double laser pulse and instantly explodes into plasma. The temperature shoots past 200,000 Kelvin, and that plasma emits EUV light. And essentially, this is not just a light source, this is a controlled explosion. And this is where everything gets even more extreme. These photons are almost impossible to control. They get absorbed by air almost instantly. So the entire machine has to run in a perfect vacuum. They don't pass through glass. Lenses are useless at this scale. So instead, we bounce the light off a series of ultra-precise mirrors. But after a few reflections, almost all of the light is gone. By the time it reaches the wafer, almost nothing is left. But somehow, that tiny fraction is enough to build the most advanced chips on Earth. And that's because this light carries the pattern. It hits the wafer coated in photoresist, and it changes it at a molecular level. Then you wash it, and what survives is the design. One layer, done. Just like that. Now you repeat it again and again, hundreds of times. Each layer aligned with near atomic precision. And there is no room for error. Not even one atom out of place. And you're literally building these nanoscopic structures atom by atom. But even this is not enough. Because EUV machines are still fighting physics and starting to lose. At this scale, light doesn't arrive as a smooth wave. It arrives as individual photons. And there aren't many of them. Every feature you print is defined by a limited number of photons. That introduces variation. Some regions get slightly more, others slightly less. At that scale, that difference becomes a failure. Line breaks, contacts disappear. And yes, you can increase the EUV dose, but that's very expensive and it slows down the machine. And this machine is bleeding money. Every second it runs slower, you are burning through a tool that costs over $150,000 a day. And then comes the real problem. Because even with these most advanced machines in the world, we are now hitting the hard limit, where we cannot draw smaller transistor features using light. Intel 18A is already pushing that boundary. At 14A, even high-NA EUV starts to struggle. Same problem again. The brush is still too big. At some point you realize that you can't scale by pushing light harder. You can't scale with the tools we have. If light can do it, then something else has to. If we want Moore's law to survive the next decade, we need the materials to build themselves. And this is where a disruptive, almost unbelievable idea comes in. Directed self-assembly, or so-called DSA. It is a technique where materials form patterns on their own. You can think of it like a Lego set that builds itself the moment you apply heat, or a puzzle that solves itself once you heat it up. We will break down exactly how it works and what it means for the future of computing in a moment. But before we do, there is a reason why this is so powerful. Because the highest level of engineering isn't doing more work. It's building systems that can do the work for you. And that's exactly how I use Sintra AI. Most AI tools just sit there and wait for input. Sintra AI is different. These agents are proactive. I've been using Sintra to automate my daily tasks, and it saves me a lot of time. Every morning I start with Wheezy, my personal assistant. My favorite part is voice-to-text interface. So when I'm walking, I will just open the app and talk. Dump there all my tasks. Emails to follow up on, payments, decisions. It organizes everything, tells me what to delegate and to whom. Then there is Amy. It handles cold outreach and chases people down for me. And the best part, all of that is incredibly easy to set up. What makes all of this work is Brain AI. I uploaded my context once, projects, goals, priorities, then connected it to Gmail, Slack, Calendar, Outlook, Notion, and from that point on, every helper already knows everything about me. So when I ask for help, it's spot on. You get more than 12 helpers in one platform, available on desktop and app, super handy. They take care of daily tasks and automations, so you can focus on decisions that actually matter. Check it out through the link below and use code INTAG to get 72% off on all plans. And there is a 14-day money-back guarantee, so it's risk-free. Give it a try. If light can't do it, something else has to. The material itself. And this is where things start to get really interesting. This is a directed self-assembly. It's when nanoscopic structures figure out how to form the right pattern on their own. It's like a tiny puzzle figuring out itself. The secret behind is a material called block copolymers. These molecules are made of two parts that don't like each other. They try to separate, but they can't. So the system gets stuck in tension. You heat the material and the molecules reorganize themselves into perfectly repeating patterns, lines, dots, cylinders. Here, physics resolves that tension by creating order at the exact nanoscopic scale that chip making needs. But there is a problem, because on their own these patterns are random, beautiful but useless. Because in chip making, the position is everything. So we guide them. We do it by combining this new chemistry with our old friend, EUV. First, we use EUV light to print a guiding template, and then the block copolymer is applied and heated. Now something powerful happens. The material self-organizes, but it's constrained. It's pulled into place by our EUV template. And this is the exciting part. By combining EUV with DSA, we are literally creating features smaller than the wavelength of the light that made them. This means you need less EUV dose. You can run the tool faster and you can save money, and you still get a sharper feature, smaller than anything we've been able to manufacture before. This is what pushes us beyond nanometers, into the angstrom era. And that's how we bypass the limits of physics. That's how Moore's law survives. But how far is this technology from the real chip making? You would expect it to be some research work years away, but you will be surprised. It's already happening. Sony is already using DSA to manufacture image sensors, and that proves it's already real, which means the materials work, the process survives inside a real factory. But that's the easy case, because pushing this into leading-edge logic chips is a completely different game. And there is only one company willing to try: Intel. They're betting their future on it. Their upcoming 14A process node, expected around 2027, will be the first serious attempt to let materials self-assemble the most advanced chips on Earth. In fact, at 14 angstroms, high-NA EUV still works, but the economics starts to break. To print lines that small with light alone, you need massive exposure doses, and more exposure slows the machine down. And slower machines mean fewer wafers per hour, and that means the cost explodes. And this DSA is Intel's cheat code, because if chemistry can clean up patterns after lithography, then light doesn't have to be perfect. Essentially, you run EUV faster, process more wafers per hour, and cut the cost. That's the breakthrough. But the rest of the industry isn't following. TSMC and Samsung are not adopting DSA for leading-edge logic. They're playing it safe, betting that brute force EUV will carry them through. Yes, it's far more expensive, but it's predictable. And at their scale, at millions of wafers per month, predictability is everything. But once we scale to 14 angstrom class transistors, this is where DSA becomes both powerful and dangerous. And the chemistry has to be nearly perfect, because at this scale, even a tiny impurity kills the chip. And here is a part most people miss, because this is more than just a new step in the fab process flow. Because EUV and DSA represent two fundamentally different philosophies of chip making. With EUV, we try to control every photon. With DSA, the final structure emerges as a system minimizes the energy. So ASML EUV machines remain the key engine of the patterning, but DSA acts as amplifier, extending what lithography can achieve long after the light has done its job. Directed self-assembly is becoming the dividing line of the next era of chip making, and Intel is stepping right onto it, betting it can push ahead at 14 angstroms. So we are watching a real divergence in the strategy playing out, and the next couple of years will show who was actually right. Because behind this bet is a single question: does Intel come back or disappear from the leading edge? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to see a bigger picture, watch this episode where I break down the most disruptive, most interesting chip factory being built, or this one on the most advanced 18A microchip technology. Love you guys, and I will see you there. Ciao.